The first shot wasn't fired by the aliens, it was us. And that's why they're afraid. Captain Darius Cade pressed his back against the cold, jagged wall of the fortress corridor, his pulse syncing with the rhythmic hum of the alien machinery around him. His visor displayed a spiderweb of red outlines, enemy patrols crisscrossing the labyrinthine hallways. The intel said there would be fewer guards. The intel was wrong. 2 on your left, a voice hissed through his earpiece. Private Hale, the team's sniper, spoke in low, deliberate tones. The kid was new, barely out of training, but his hands were steady and his shots, lethal. Darius inhaled. The recycled air of the Vexery stronghold tasted metallic, tinged with the acrid burn of plasma discharges. The fortress, perched on the shattered remains of a once thriving city, loomed under a sickly green sky. The dying sun cast elongated shadows that twisted and stretched like grasping fingers. "On my mark," he whispered, his voice as tight as the grip on his rifle. 3, 2. The doors at the end of the corridor slid open with a pneumatic hiss. 2 Vexery soldiers, tall and skeletal with pallid skin pulled taut over their frames, stepped through. Their black, chitinous armor absorbed the dim light, their elongated limbs moving with insectal precision. 1. Darius rounded the corner. His rifle barked twice. The first Vexery's head snapped back, a crater where its eye had been. The second dropped to a knee, a blade extending from its wrist, but Hale's bullet found its mark between the thing's mandibles. "Clear," Darius muttered. The bodies hadn't even hit the floor when he moved forward, signaling the rest of his team to follow. Sergeant Kane, a hulking wall of muscle with a cybernetic arm, slid in behind him. He planted a charge on the security door, his movements practiced and deliberate. Behind him, Corporal Lin, their tech specialist, tapped into the alien terminal, fingers flying over the holographic interface. "We've got a problem," Lin said, her voice strained. "The execution order's been moved up. The Queen dies in 30 minutes. Darius's jaw tightened. "Then we run." He led them deeper into the fortress, every step calculated. His HUD flared warnings, motion detected, heat signatures converging. They were out of time. The next chamber opened up into a sprawling atrium, its architecture a mockery of ancient temples, twisted by alien aesthetics. Massive stone columns bore glyphs that pulsed with a bioluminescent glow. At the center, suspended in a containment field, floated the Zerlani Queen. Her translucent skin shimmered with a faint opalescence, veins of light pulsing beneath the surface. She looked fragile, like a creature of glass and light, but Darius knew better. The Queen held secrets, strategies, a chance at salvation. A platoon of Vexery death guards stood between them. Their armor was heavier, their weapons crueler, kinetic spears that crackled with energy. The leader stepped forward, a massive figure with an ornate helm and a voice like grinding stones. "Humans," it sneered, the word distorted through its translator. "You have wandered into your grave." Darius didn't answer with words. He threw a flash charge and moved. His team followed, their formation tight. The atrium erupted into chaos, plasma bolts and kinetic rounds crisscrossed the air, sparks and blood painting the stone floors. Kane's arm became a blur, metal fist colliding with alien bone. Lin weaved through the chaos, fingers dancing as she hacked the Queen's containment field. Hale took cover above, each shot thinning the enemy ranks with surgical precision. Darius closed the distance to the Queen. Her large, luminescent eyes fixed on him, unreadable. The containment field fizzled, then dropped. She landed gracefully, her movements fluid and unsettling. "Are you here to kill me, human?" Her voice was a melody, laced with suspicion. "No," Darius answered, his voice sharp over the sounds of battle. "We're here to win." A rumble shook the atrium. The far wall crumbled as more Vexery poured in, their war cries echoing. The Queen recoiled, her delicate fingers curling into talons. Lin's voice crackled in his ear. "Captain, extraction point is compromised. The dropship's gone." Darius clenched his teeth. His mind raced. Options? None good. Then we exfil the hard way. He turned to the queen. Can you fight? Her lips curled back, 1,000 sharp, needle-like teeth glinting in the low light. I am Vierek royalty. I do not run. Good, Darius said, handing her a plasma pistol. You're about to learn how humans make an exit. The battle became a blur of violence and chaos. The team moved as one, years of training distilled into lethal efficiency. Darius's rifle spat death, each shot a promise kept. Kane's cybernetic arm tore through armor and flesh alike. Lynn's tech smarts turned the fortress's defenses against its own soldiers, and Hale's shots cut down reinforcements before they could reach the fray. But then, the betrayal. The fortress speakers crackled to life, a voice that froze Darius's blood. Captain Cade, the voice of Admiral Hale, Hale's own father, filled the chamber. This is a direct order. Stand down. The Queen must not leave this place. Hale's rifle faltered. His face, pale beneath his helmet, turned to Darius. Sir? Darius's mind raced. He should have seen it, the half-hearted support, the last-minute mission go-ahead. His own command had set them up to fail. The mission stands. We're getting her out. You're disobeying a direct order, the Admiral's voice thundered. Stand down, or we will consider you an enemy combatant. Darius's lips peeled back in a snarl. Go to hell. He shot the terminal, cutting off the Admiral's voice. The Queen stared at him, a mix of awe and disbelief. You defy your own leaders? My leaders don't get to decide when humanity gives up. He turned to his team. Move. We take the eastern corridor. Hale hesitated. My father. Your father just sold us out. Are you with us or not? The young sniper's eyes hardened. With you, sir. Always. They charged into the corridor, the sound of alien reinforcements closing in behind them. Each step was a gamble, every turn a new threat. But Darius led, his silhouette sharp and unyielding against the flickering lights of the dying fortress. He wasn't just a soldier, he was the blade at humanity's throat, ready to cut, ready to bleed if it meant one more chance at survival. The chapter ended as they breached the eastern exit, finding not salvation, but a wall of Vexery soldiers waiting in the ash-choked twilight. And behind them, the unmistakable silhouette of Supreme Admiral Xiphos Vrail. Darius's grip tightened around his rifle. Well, he muttered, looks like they're afraid of us after all. Darius stood his ground, rifle steady, gaze locked on Supreme Admiral Xiphos Vrail. The Vexery warlord loomed over the assembled soldiers, his obsidian armor reflecting the twilight glow. Behind him, the fortress's exterior loomed, a jagged silhouette against the dying sun. Their exit was cut off. The Queen stiffened beside Darius, her translucent skin flickering in agitation. She understood as well as he did, this was a kill box. Vrail took a measured step forward. His voice was like steel scraping over stone. Surrender, human. There is no escape. Darius almost laughed. The bastards always thought surrender was an option. He checked his ammo. 2 clips left. Not enough for a prolonged fight. He glanced at Kane, Lynn, and Hale. All 3 were on edge, fingers on triggers, waiting for the inevitable. Options? Kane muttered. Fight through, Darius replied, eyes scanning for a weakness in the Vexery ranks. Lynn cursed under her breath. That's not an option, sir. They have snipers on the ridge. Heavy armor blocking the side routes. They knew we'd come this way. Darius flexed his jaw. They had been funneled here. Played. The betrayal went deeper than just an intercepted transmission, someone had predicted every step he'd take. Vrail tilted his head, mandibles clicking. I will grant you one opportunity, Captain. Surrender the Queen, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and I will make an example of you. Your species will learn to kneel. Darius exhaled slowly. He'd heard variations of that line before. From alien warlords, human despots, rogue AI overlords. It always ended the same way. With a gunfight. He fired first. The shot ripped through the skull of the nearest Vexery soldier, dropping it instantly. That was the only invitation the team needed. Kain roared as he launched forward, cybernetic fist crushing the windpipe of an advancing warrior. Lyn ducked behind rubble, hacking into their communications, sowing chaos in their ranks. Hale took position on a fallen pillar, picking off enemies with cold efficiency. Darius moved, dragging the Queen with him as they sought cover behind the remains of a collapsed vehicle. Plasma fire streaked through the air, sizzling past his armor, close enough that he could feel the heat against his skin. The Queen's voice was sharp. "You risk everything for me." "Why?" Darius reloaded, eyes never leaving the battlefield. "Because you're the only shot we've got at turning this war around." She studied him, her gaze unreadable. "You believe one life can shift an entire war?" Darius didn't hesitate. "Depends on the life." Vrail, unfazed by the battle, strode forward like a living executioner. Too fast. Too strong. Darius saw the strike a fraction of a second too late. The Vexery warlord moved, crossing the battlefield in a blink, his glaive carving through the air in a lethal arc. Kain barely twisted in time to deflect the blow, the impact sending him sprawling backward. Lyn screamed something in his earpiece. Darius didn't hear it. His focus was locked on Vrail. The warlord's red eyes gleamed behind his helmet. He wanted this kill. Wanted to break them here and now. Darius didn't give him the chance. He fired point blank into Vrail's side. Once. Twice. 3 times. The warlord staggered but didn't fall. The armor absorbed most of it. Damn it. Then Vrail's blade was coming down. The Queen moved. Fast. Her hand shot up, catching Vrail's weapon mid-swing. Energy crackled where she touched it, the alien alloy bending against her grip. Vrail's eyes widened in momentary surprise. The Queen turned to Darius, voice sharp. "Your weapons will not win this fight." "But I can." Darius didn't question it. "Then do it." She unleashed a shockwave. Energy rippled outward from her core, slamming into the Vexery forces like a detonated gravity bomb. Soldiers were flung through the air, armor crumpling under the sheer force. Even Vrail, for all his strength, was forced to take a step back. Darius grabbed Lyn and Hale, dragging them into motion. "Move! Now!" The Queen faltered, her breathing unsteady. Darius caught her as she stumbled. Whatever power she had just used had drained her. "Don't slow down," he urged, practically hauling her forward. Lyn pulled up a map on her wrist display. "There's an underground transit tunnel 100 meters east. If we make it there, we might have a shot." Hale was already covering their flank, picking off the dazed stragglers left in the wake of the Queen's attack. "Then we better move fast." The team sprinted, boots pounding against cracked stone as they veered off the main road. More Vexery reinforcements were closing in from the north. No time. Kain, still limping from Vrail's blow, turned to Darius. "Buy you some time?" Darius didn't like it. "You won't make it." Kain just grinned. "Not planning to." There wasn't time to argue. "Damn it." Darius clasped Kain's forearm, the unspoken understanding passing between them. "Make it hurt." Kain nodded once. "Oh, I intend to." Then he turned back, cracking his neck, and charged straight into the advancing Vexery. Darius forced himself forward, ignoring the gut-wrenching sound of battle behind him. Kain knew what he was doing. He had bought them time. It was up to them to make it count. Lyn found the transit entrance first, wrenching open the emergency hatch. "Go, go, go!" Hale dropped in first, then Lyn. Darius followed, hauling the Queen down with him just as a plasma explosion shook the ground above. Darkness swallowed them. The air was thick with dust, the tunnel silent save for their own breathing. Darius activated his visor's low-light mode, sweeping their surroundings. The transit station was abandoned, long forgotten beneath the city ruins. The Queen sagged against the wall, clearly weakened. Her voice was soft. Your soldier, he did not need to die. Darius exhaled. That's war. She studied him in the dim light, something unreadable in her gaze. Humans, you are not like the others. No, Darius agreed, reloading his rifle. We're worse. Lynn scanned the tunnels. If we follow this track east, we might be able to hijack an old mag train. But we don't know what's waiting ahead. Hale exhaled. Could be an easy way out. Could be a death trap. Darius considered their options. Stay, and they'd be found. Move forward, and they risked running straight into another Vexery force. It wasn't much of a choice. He adjusted his grip on his rifle and looked down the tunnel, endless and dark. Somewhere at the end of it lay their escape, or their deaths. Then we do what we always do, he said, stepping forward. We keep going. The others followed. Above them, the fortress burned. And somewhere in the ruins, Supreme Admiral Xiphos Vrail watched the fire, his expression unreadable. The hunt wasn't over. Not yet. You said. The tunnel stretched ahead, silent, vast, and empty. The darkness pressed in like a living thing. Darius moved at a steady pace, rifle up, eyes sweeping the shadows. His team followed, their breathing slow, controlled. No one spoke. They didn't have to. The Queen was the weakest among them, her energy drained from the shockwave she'd unleashed topside. Lynn had given her a small stim dose, but it would only buy them minutes, not strength. Hale moved ahead, keeping an eye on their forward path, while Lynn tapped into the old mag train system. If they were lucky, they could hijack a working line, ride it straight to the extraction zone. If they were lucky. Darius knew better than to count on luck. Lynn's fingers danced over her wrist display. Tracks still have power. I think I can, she stopped, frowning. Wait. There's movement ahead. Darius turned his visor to scan. His HUD flared red. Contact. 50 meters. Incoming. Damn it. Move, Darius ordered. Now. The team sprinted forward, boots clanking against metal rails. The Queen struggled to keep up, her frame too delicate for this kind of exertion. Darius gritted his teeth and slung his rifle over his shoulder. Without hesitation, he lifted her into a fireman's carry. She tensed. I do not require. Yeah, well, I require you not slowing us down, Darius snapped, pushing forward. Behind them, the tunnel rumbled. A low growl echoed from the darkness. It wasn't Vexery soldiers. Something else. Hale spun, raising his rifle. What the hell is that? Then it appeared. A Vexery hunter drone. 8 legs, each tipped with razor-sharp claws, skittering across the tunnel walls like an oversized arachnid. Its central body pulsed with dull, sickly green light, and in the dimness, its metallic jaws clicked. Darius didn't hesitate. Light it up. Gunfire roared. Bullets slammed into the hunter's carapace, but the thing was fast, unnaturally so. It twisted, avoiding most of the rounds, then leapt. It hit Hale first. The sniper went down hard, his rifle skidding across the tunnel floor. The hunter's claws raked across his armor, sparks flying as it tried to tear through the plating. Darius dropped the Queen, spun, and fired point-blank into the creature's back. The kinetic rounds slammed into its exoskeleton, denting it, but not stopping it. Hale grunted, struggling beneath the thing's weight. Kill it already. Kane would have been able to rip it apart. Kane was gone. Darius moved. Fast. He grabbed his combat knife and plunged it into the hunter's joint. The blade slid between armored plates, meeting resistance, then piercing deep. The creature let out a shriek that rattled the tunnel walls. It reared back. Hale kicked it off, rolling to his feet. Lynn fired her SMG in controlled bursts, aiming for the soft spots Darius had exposed. The hunter jerked violently as rounds punched into its underbelly. The Queen, weak but still perceptive, stepped forward. Her hands glowed. A pulse of energy rippled outward. The hunter stopped. Then collapsed, its body shuddering before going still. Silence. Darius exhaled. Everyone still alive? Hale coughed. More or less. Lynn kicked the hunter's corpse, muttering, "What the hell was this thing doing down here?" Darius had a bad feeling about that. Hunter drones didn't patrol old tunnels. Unless they were guarding something. The Queen looked at the fallen machine, her expression unreadable. The Dominion knows we are here. This was not random. Darius agreed. Then we don't stick around. Lynn checked her wrist display. Trains ahead. 50 meters. If it's functional, we can ride it straight out. Darius grabbed his rifle and nodded. Move. They ran. The final gambit. The mag train station was a cavernous, dust-filled void. The train itself was still intact, a relic of an old war. Its sleek, rusted form rested in place, dormant. Lynn worked fast, fingers flying over the console. It's got power, but it's on emergency lockdown. I can override, but it'll take a minute. A minute they did not have. A deep roar echoed from behind them. Darius turned to see Vexary soldiers pouring into the station. Too many. Supreme Admiral Xiphos Vrail strode in behind them, slow, deliberate. His glaive gleamed in the dim light, and his red eyes burned with the certainty of victory. "Captain Cade," he said smoothly. "This is the end of your defiance." Darius reloaded. "You keep saying that." The first shot rang out. The station erupted into a storm of fire and blood. Darius moved fast. The Queen stayed low, pressing herself against the train as Lynn frantically hacked the system. Hale picked off targets from the high ground, but the Vexary were everywhere. Vrail didn't attack immediately. He watched. Studied. Darius didn't have time to play his game. He grabbed a thermal grenade and lobbed it. The explosion sent bodies flying. The heat wave rocked the station, scattering enemy forces. The moment of chaos was all they needed. Lynn screamed. "It's online. Get in." Darius shoved the Queen inside first, followed by Hale. Lynn barely made it before plasma fire rained down on them. Darius turned at the last second. Vrail was coming. Fast. Darius fired. Vrail dodged. His glaive slashed. The blade cut deep into Darius's armor. Pain. Burning. Darius ignored it. He moved. He grabbed the warlord's wrist, twisted, and planted his knife between the bastard's ribs. Vrail let out a sharp hiss of pain. Then he smiled. The train lurched forward. Darius jumped. His body slammed into the cabin, his fingers barely grasping the edge as the train accelerated. Lynn and Hale pulled him up just as plasma fire tore through the air where he had been. The train shot through the tunnel, leaving Vrail behind. The aftermath. Darius slumped against the wall, breathing hard. Blood seeped from his side, but he was alive. The Queen studied him. "You have risked much for a war that is not yours." Darius chuckled darkly. "Lady, it became my war the second the Dominion decided humanity wasn't worth keeping around." She nodded, as if understanding something for the first time. "Then let us ensure they regret that choice." The train sped forward, taking them toward the next battle. And behind them, in the station, Xiphos Vrail watched the darkness, his hand pressing against the wound Darius had left. For the first time in centuries, he smiled. The humans had his attention now. And war had only just begun.